If you're clearing your calendar, creating space to reset, and you're still pushing yourself just to care about work that used to light you up, it's not because you're lazy, and it's definitely not a discipline issue. It's because you're trying to power your motivation with a system that no longer fits who you are now. That's why today I'm showing you how to build motivation without defaulting to your old hustle so that you can protect your energy, reconnect with your drive, and actually feel like you again without pretending to have it all together. We'll break down what's actually draining your motivation behind the scenes, why discipline alone won't fix it, and how to reset in real time before burnout becomes your only option. You don't have to force yourself back into the old rhythm. You just need a better one that works for this season of your life. But before we dive in, I want to introduce myself. If you haven't been following me for a while, hello, my name is 𝗧𝗵𝗂𝗍. I am a self-care strategist for high-achieving women who are building businesses, leading teams, raising families, and doing it all with excellence, but want to sustain that success without running on fumes. I help my clients protect their energy, sharpen their decision-making, and build their internal drive using high-performance self-care strategies that match their reality, not just in theory. Because staying motivated shouldn't require burning yourself out just to prove you still care. If you've been craving a way to build or rebuild your motivation without needing to overhaul your entire life or to force yourself to power through, stay with me because at the end of today's session, I'll show you how to take this deeper and start making small, real-time shifts that protect your energy and bring your drive back without burning yourself out to get there. So let's get into it. You probably learned early on that pushing through was how strong women succeed, right? Meaning somewhere along the way, you internalized the belief that pushing through, no matter the cost, was just part of the job. And so it wasn't that you chose hustle, it's just what was modeled for you. It was rewarded and repeated until it became your normal. And for a long time, it seemed to work. You had drive, you had structure, you had clarity. Hustling felt like a superpower, not a problem. You'd power through long days, tight deadlines, client fires, and personal commitments and still feel like yourself. But now, that same hustle feels heavier. You're getting through your day, but it takes more out of you. You're still performing, but you're starting to feel disconnected, like you're rushing through just to check the box as done next instead of moving with purpose. And here's what no one's saying. Hustling stops working when you've outgrown the identity that hustle was built on. Let me explain. The version of you that learned to hustle, she probably built that mindset in a very different season. Maybe before you had kids, maybe before your business took off, maybe before your internal values evolved. But your life got bigger and the old way of pushing through didn't stretch with it. And now you're trying to power a new chapter with old wiring. And that's why it feels like something's off, because it is. This isn't about being unmotivated. It's about trying to operate from alignment while still running on adrenaline in a life that's shifted from structured and predictable to layered and emotionally demanding. And your tactics never changed to support that. You're still the same ambitious, high-performing woman, but the way you access your drive needs to shift because hustle built from pressure only works when your nervous system can keep up with the pace. And when you're stretched emotionally, mentally, or physically, and you haven't reset how you engage with your work, that same hustle turns from fuel to friction. And it shows up like this, where you're still delivering, but it feels like you're running on fumes. You've cleared your calendar, your schedule, but you still feel overwhelmed. You get a full night's rest, but you still wake up feeling foggy. These aren't random symptoms. These are signs that you've outgrown the pace you once thrived in, that your hustle has outlived its season, and your energy is asking for a new way forward. And here's what that looks like in real life. Let's say you get to the end of your day, and you've done everything you set out to do. The emails are sent, you handled all your meetings, the work's technically done, but for some reason, one that you can't quite put your finger on, you feel disconnected, like you're just moving through the motions. No clarity, no spark, no real connection to the work that used to energize you. And you start wondering, what's wrong with me? Like, why does everything feel so much harder than it used to? You try to push through, You try to rally, but the energy doesn't come. And that's when self-doubt starts creeping in. Maybe I'm not cut out for this anymore. Maybe I've lost my edge. But here's what's actually happening. It's not that you've lost your drive. It's not that it's not cut out for it anymore, that you've lost your edge. It's that the version of you who could push through anything, who ran on adrenaline, well, she was performing at all costs, and you found your worth in how much you could carry. And you've been operating in a system that rewards overextension more than alignment. Because even though you've changed, your values have changed, your priorities have changed, your season of life has changed, your internal system hasn't caught up to the shift. You're still running the old playbook, one that was built for pressure, not alignment. Now, the shift isn't about working harder. It's about learning how to honor your energy, your bandwidth, and build or rebuild your motivation from who you are now, not who you used to be. And that's where real momentum begins. And that brings us to what most women miss when that hustle starts to crack. It's the identity shift no one prepared them for. The part where who they are has evolved, but no one told them their operating system had to evolve. When your identity shifts, your drive can't come from the same source it used to. And if you keep reaching for old tactics in a new season, motivation will always feel just out of reach. And this is where survival mode productivity quietly sneaks in. So let's talk about one of the hardest patterns to spot, because it does look so much like success on the surface, right? Because you're showing up, you're getting things done, you're still leading, delivering, and checking off all the boxes, but under the surface, you feel flat. You're not lit up, you're not inspired, you're doing just enough to keep things moving, but everything you're doing starts to feel heavier and heavier than it should. And maybe you haven't said it out loud yet, but if you're being honest, you're starting to quietly resent the things that used to energize you. Maybe even resent parts of your business or the people around you because of how much you're carrying, how little space you have to breathe, and how often you override your own needs just to keep things running. Now, this isn't sustainable, right? It's a survival loop that looks like discipline, but it's actually something else entirely. Because what you've been calling discipline, pushing through, staying productive, holding it all together, no matter what, it's not always coming from clarity or intention, right? Most of the time it's coming from pressure, the fear of falling behind, or the belief that if you stop, everything will fall apart, or even thinking that your worth is somehow tied to how much you get done. That's not alignment. That's emotional override. And if you stay in it too long, it doesn't just drain your energy, it disconnects you from your joy, your creativity, and your clarity too, until you're just going through the motions, doing the bare minimum and calling it discipline, thinking that you're pushing through, you're being resilient. And before you know it, you're operating in your own version of quiet quitting because you spent so long overriding your own needs that depletion has become your baseline. And the longer you stay in this loop, the more disconnected you feel from your work, from your energy, even your own sense of clarity. It's a form of quiet quitting that no one is talking about because on paper, you're doing everything right, but inside you're checking out. You're doing just enough to keep up appearances while your internal world feels miles behind. And here's the belief that keeps this loop going. If I just had more discipline, I'd be fine. But discipline isn't the problem. The problem is that you've normalized overriding your needs in the name of productivity. You're carrying emotional weight you haven't named. You're managing expectations that feel like too much. You're pushing through because slowing down feels like falling behind. And if you feel like you're falling behind, then that means that you're failing at life. But here's the truth. You're not failing at life. What's happening is you believe that you can out-discipline your emotional depletion, but you can't. You can't outrun misalignment with to-do lists. You can't solve your internal disconnect by performing harder, thinking that if I work harder, I'll get through this, I'm resilient, and I can do this. These things happen when you've outgrown a system that equates emotional override with success, like being resilient because I can push through. What you've done is you've trained yourself to function in high responsibility mode, even when your clarity, your energy, and your joy are quietly fading in the background. And so the work isn't really to push harder. It's for you to interrupt the survival loop that's masquerading as discipline before it costs you the very energy that makes your success sustainable and before it steals your joy. Because when your productivity is powered by depletion, you don't just lose energy, you lose connection to the why behind what you're doing. And that's where your version of quiet quitting begins. Not because you don't care, but because you've kept giving and pouring and producing from a well that's quietly run dry. You didn't mean to miss the shift. You just kept showing up the only way you knew how. Even as your life has changed, your needs have shifted and the old rhythm has stopped fitting. And because no one ever told you that needing something different isn't failure, it's just a sign that you're evolving. And here's the thing. If you keep ignoring the changes and pouring from an empty cup, eventually even what you love will start to feel like a burden. So if you've been showing up but still feeling disconnected from your drive, if the old ways of motivating yourself aren't working anymore, but you're not sure what to do instead, it's not because you've lost your ambition. It's because your energy, your priorities, and your capacity have shifted, and your system for saying yes hasn't caught up yet. That's why today I want to show you how to build your motivation from alignment, not adrenaline, using my method, the Yes Reset method, so that you can protect your energy, reclaim your clarity, and restore momentum that actually feels good again. So let's talk about first where most high achieving women get stuck when their motivation starts to fade. You try to power through. Okay, you set the alarm earlier than usual so that now you find yourself getting up at 4:30 every morning, but by mid-afternoon, you're crashing. You block time on your calendar, but you keep skipping your scheduled breaks because there's always something more urgent and it feels easier just to keep pushing through than to pause and reset. You even double down on your routines and you try to get back to that pace that used to work, but nothing seems to be working because you've outgrown the version of you those routines were built for, right? And no matter how many systems you rework or how many pep talks you give yourself, that internal fire that used to fuel your drive still feels dim. And that's because the answer isn't about more structure or discipline. It's about real-time alignment with what you actually need in this season, like right now. Because the truth is, you can't build your motivation from pressure, and you can't reignite your clarity by overriding your capacity. What you can do is reset your energy by learning how to filter, categorize, and protect your commitments so that you're not constantly leaking your motivation into things that no longer serve you or never did serve you at all. And this is exactly where the Yes Reset method comes in. So let's go through each step and I'll show you how it can fit into your life seamlessly. So step one is to use the 3-question yes filter. Now, if you've been following me for a while, you know I talk a lot about the 3-question yes filter and how these questions help you to make better yes decisions so that you're using your time and your energy more effectively. So in essence, before you commit, before you take on another project or a responsibility, or even a quick favor for someone, ask yourself these 3 questions. Question 1, does this align with my highest priority focus for right now? Listen, not everything that's good is right for right now. And so what this question does is it's going to keep you focused on what matters this season, not what feels urgent or impressive, which could just be a distraction that's disguised as an opportunity. Question 2, am I saying yes from alignment or from obligation, guilt, or fear? Now, the energy behind your yes matters more than what you're saying yes to, because when you say yes from pressure, you don't just lose your time and your energy, you lose clarity, presence, and peace of mind, and you end up spending valuable energy that was meant to support your priorities on something that wasn't really aligned in the first place. And question 3, what am I trading for this yes? Because every yes is a trade. And when you say yes to one thing, it's important that you know exactly what you're saying no to. If you say yes to something that's not in alignment, but it was done out of guilt or fear or obligation, you could be saying no to your creativity because this is something that you needed this time for. You were in the middle of creating something new, a new process, a new program, a new product. And now you said yes to something else that's going to dip into that time that you wanted for that, or you're having time to spend with your family because now you're finding yourself working later and later into the night. Or maybe even your well-being, you stop taking those well-deserved breaks throughout the day. And so you find yourself pushing through until you're on fumes by the end of the day and you're exhausted. This 3-question yes filter is meant to help you to interrupt your automatic yes patterns so that you can get back in touch with your actual values and spend your time and energy where it aligns the best for you. Again, every yes is a trade, right? And so you want to be consciously aware about that exchange so that you go from those automatic yes decisions to aligned, self-honoring ones. However, I want you to remember this, that when you don't pause to ask yourself if what you're saying yes to is aligned or not, if it's aligned or out of obligation, guilt, or fear, the consequences can add up. So let's just say, as an example, a client messages you late Thursday afternoon. Hey, totally forgot to ask. Can you get me the revised version by tomorrow morning instead of Monday? And you think, well, it's not a huge ask. You've done quick turnarounds before. But instead of checking in with yourself, with what you have going on for the rest of the week and the plans you have maybe had for taking that Friday off, you say yes. And so here's what that yes is costing you. You cancel your workout to stay late at your desk. You work through dinner, distracted and irritable with your partner and your kids. You go to bed buzzing with anxiety and you wake up drained. And you put off packing for the long weekend away and you save it for Friday morning. But when you wake up, you're foggy, you're unfocused, you're questioning your strategy, and you just want to crawl back into bed. You're out of energy. And now you're carrying the guilt of disappointing your kids. You've had a busy week, but now you're feeling it. Now you're wondering if your kids are going to understand when you say, would you mind if we stayed home this weekend? Work got in the way again. All of this happened because of one misaligned decision, one misaligned yes, a yes that came from a sense of obligation, not alignment. So while that deliverable got done, the collateral damage was your energy, your clarity, and your ability to show up fully for what actually mattered to you. That's what makes this filter essential, because your yes decisions don't just shape what goes on your calendar. They shape how you feel in your life, how present you are at dinner, how patient you are with your significant other and your kids, and how connected you feel to the woman you're becoming. An aligned yes protects more than your time and your energy. It protects your peace of mind, your presence with your family, and within your business so that you're not just getting by with the bare minimum. It also protects your ability to show up fully in the moments that matter most so that you don't have to keep sacrificing the parts of you, the parts of your life that matter most to you just to keep up. And that's what allows you to lead powerfully in your work without losing yourself in the process and to show up in your personal life feeling good about who you are. Okay, let's talk about step 2. Categorize your decisions like a high-performance CEO. Once you've used the 3-question yes filter, the next move is simple. Looking at all of those decisions, you've taken it through the decision filter, and now you can decide, you can categorize it. If it's a yes, that means it's aligned, it's energizing, and it supports your top priorities. So you've said yes to it. However, if it's a no, that means you've automatically understood, you've realized that it will drain you or distract you, or that it doesn't match your current focus, and that your energy just won't support it. Or it could have been a not right now or later, which means it has that potential, but not for right now, which means you can revisit it intentionally when you feel that your energy and your time will support it. Let's say you get invited to speak at a local women's leadership event with a panel of really incredible, powerful women, women that you admire, that you've been following, and you admire the work that they do. It's aligned with your long-term visibility goals because it gets you in front of potential clients. The topic is right on point. It sounds exciting, and you absolutely love the host. She's someone you've been following for a while now. You've been connected to her for a while, and you're extremely grateful that she asked you to be a part of this. But right now, you're deep in client delivery. Your evenings are already packed with end of school year activities, and you're barely protecting your work blocks as it is. On paper, this event, it looks like a yes, right? But when you run it through the yes filter, you realize it doesn't support your highest priority focus for right now. It will disrupt what's going on in your life right now. So instead of saying yes out of pressure or FOMO, you label it not right now. You politely decline and you ask the host to keep you in mind for future events. That one shift, choosing based on alignment, aligned timing, rather than obligation, guilt, or even fear of missing out, frees up your bandwidth. It protects your peace and it keeps you focused on what matters most right now. Now, this isn't about saying no out of fear. It's about choosing yes from ownership, owning your yeses. When you make decisions this way, you free up your mental space, you reduce your reactivity, and you restore focus. And more importantly, you stop feeling like your energy is being hijacked by your quick response yeses that are drowning your calendar. Okay, finally, step number 3, protect your yes energy. This is the piece most people skip, probably most of the time because they're not thinking about it. But think about this. You filter your decision through the 3-question yes filter, right? And then you take it through and you categorize it. But if you don't protect your energy, you're going to still end up depleted even from aligned yes decisions. So again, this is how you protect your yes energy while you're going through the 3-question yes filter and wanting to categorize it. Again, it's important that you pay attention because we give ourselves clues. Our body will give us clues. And the first one is if you hesitate. So if you do hesitate around an opportunity that comes your way, check in with yourself because that pause might be resistance, and resistance often means misalignment. Again, saying no doesn't make you selfish. It makes you strategic. It creates room for the yes that actually moves the needle, and that actually fits for your current focus, okay? So again, making sure that if you are hesitating, that is a sign or a cue for you to stop. Take some time, think through this, make sure that it's in alignment, making sure that you're not saying yes because you're afraid of missing out or feeling guilty because this is someone you know, so you do it out of obligation. You want to make sure that you're using this time to really make sure that what you're saying yes to is really going to support you in your long-term, but in your current focus, okay? And the yes energy, it's not just about your time. It's about your presence. It's about your ability to lead. It's about your ability to create, to decide clearly. And you want to make sure that you treat every yes, like your yes energy, like premium fuel. Because if you burn it on everything, you say yes to everything, and you overwhelm your calendar, you stretch your reserves thin, you're going to have nothing left what actually matters. And here's a shift I want you to lean into. It's not about you needing more motivation. It's about you needing fewer energy leaks. And it's why having a decision filter that helps you trust your yes again without guilt, overthinking, or emotional debt is going to help you to move through your days with more clarity and intention, which will in turn help you to feel more energized, focused, and fully present in both your work and personal life. So building motivation really isn't about discipline. It's about alignment, right? When you stop saying yes from pressure and you start choosing it from clarity, you actually restore the natural drive that used to feel lost. That's what the Yes Reset method gives you. A system to build motivation that matches who you are now, not the version of you who was fueled by proving or pressure or survival mode. Because your motivation isn't missing. It's just been buried under everything you've been carrying and all of the expectations of life. And when you clear that weight away, when you make room for what actually matters, that's when your clarity comes back. That's when your energy comes back. That's when you start to feel more like yourself again and your momentum returns. Now, I hope this was helpful for you today. If today's conversation has spoken to you and you're curious about what protecting your energy and saying yes with clarity could look like in your world, drop the word aligned in the comments or send me an email. You'll find my email in the show notes, so you can send me an email directly. Or as I said, just drop the word aligned and then I can just respond to your messages. As we close up today, I just want to leave you with this. You do not need to wait for a breakdown to earn a breakthrough, meaning you don't have to keep pushing just to prove that you haven't lost your edge. And again, you're not behind because your old ways of motivating yourself don't work anymore. It's not that you've lost that motivation or drive. It's just that the old ways of doing things just don't work. You've outgrown them. Your life has changed. So as you change throughout your life, your systems need to change with that, right? They have to reflect those changes. So protecting your energy becomes that leadership move that makes your success sustainable. So every time you choose a decision that aligns over one that just impresses because, well, this is somebody I've been following a while. Like, again, when I say it could be a distraction that's disguised as an opportunity, and it's someone that and you have that fear of missing out and you think, oh, I'm just going to fit it in. It's really important that you pay attention to that because those are patterns. Every time you say no without guilt, or pausing instead of powering through, you're not falling behind, right? And you're not losing your momentum. You are becoming more aware of what's no longer working for you and of what you actually need to feel like yourself again. That awareness is your turning point. It's what allows you to rebuild motivation without forcing your old hustle, to move forward in a way that feels aligned, energized, and fully your own. So I encourage you to take the pause and trust your resets. Take the time, use the yes reset method to support your decisions so they're from alignment, not fear, guilt, or obligation. And protect what fuels you because your energy isn't a nice to have. It's the foundation of everything you're here to do. Now, if today's message resonated with you, be sure to subscribe, tap the bell so that you don't miss what's next, and feel free to share this with another high achiever that deserves to protect their energy as well. Thanks for spending time with me today. Take care of you, and I will see you next time.